Welcome to the deep dive behind the scenes section of this special segment of the Rutledge Perspective podcast with Jennifer Campbell, the founder and CEO of Soulstar. And I'm going to have Jennifer reiterate to you, for those of you who may have caught the podcast episode, and for those of you just maybe tuning into the deep dive, I want her to reiterate to you the three things for her that kind of generate the idea of starting into a business. And then I'm going to talk to you about why that's important. So Jennifer, one, thank you for doing this deep dive because this is going to be good. And y'all, you'll get her bio and everything. So, don't worry about all the details. You'll get the bio. So tell people, when we talked earlier, you're like, there are three things that kind of drive me when I think about a business. What were those three things?
Yeah. So what I noticed is I've been an entrepreneur for 11 years. And what I noticed is that I create business out of one of three things or combination of these three things.
Mm-hmm.
And those are a vision that I have for the world or out of pain. So things that I experienced that were painful in my life. And somehow that converts into wanting to help other people overcome a similar pain.
Mm-hmm.
And curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things like, oh, why is this happening the way it's happening? And could we do this differently? Or why is this not in the world? And how do we get it into the world?
Yes.
So vision, pain, and curiosity are the three things that, prompted me to start my businesses. Yeah.
I love it. I love it because the reason I wanted to have Jennifer reiterate those three things to you is because in this segment, as we're talking to different entrepreneurs and as you're hearing their stories, each of them has a business that is aligned with who they are, right? And they have a journey and there's a reason they're doing what they're doing. But you'll see that each of them also has iterations to their business. And like for Jennifer, this is this next iteration of her business, but it has come out of and is now building upon things that she has learned in the previous businesses, right? So,
Yeah.
it is really, as I have been in entrepreneurship. So this is year 7 for me. As I've been on this entrepreneurship journey and have watched other people do it, and especially with COVID and everybody's online, and there's been such a growth of entrepreneurship in recent years, there's this proliferation of, well, everybody's got a makeup line or everybody's got a online yoga studio or everybody's got, a travel pack or a cleaning thing. Everybody's got a thing or a process. And you can tell when it is, well, I think this is the thing that's going to sell, so I'm going to do that, as opposed to, I really think I have a solution to something, or this is an impact I want to make. How do you help people or guide people who are saying, no, I really want to start a business? How do you take them through that process of understanding, one, it's a business, like it's work, but it also needs to really be something that really is, are you trying to solve a problem? Are you trying to make an impact? What is the thing? Because it's not just about being the next influencer, because that's one in a million.
Yeah, well, when you ask me that, Laurel, what works for me is to really sit with a person and see, well, what do you want in life, and what is aligned with you, because people make businesses out of their hobbies, and sometimes people are just so focused on just making a lot of money, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to make a lot of money. Right. Make loads of it.
Right.
But it's going to require from you as a business owner that you have the prolonged energy. You need to have stamina to be.
Yes.
It's like it's almost like being an Olympian.
Yes.
It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to make sure that your business becomes and remains successful, you got to pick something that that feeds you in some way.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
if you don't mind starting the thing anew after 2 years, then you can pick anything.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us aren't wired that way.
Right.
So when you start a business, start it with something that feeds you. And for me, it's those three things, as I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
actually, when you look at the really big entrepreneurs in the world,
Yeah.
they started their businesses for profound reasons.
Yes.
And it seems very small, but it's actually
Mm-hmm.
for profound reasons. They were either frustrated or like, why isn't this here in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Or um, wouldn't it be great? And those are the big visionaries and trailblazers who
Right.
create
Right.
something out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't imagine what they're creating yet because they don't know. It's not there
Right.
yet. But they have
Right.
this drive
Mm-hmm.
of of solving a problem. When you look at all the great inventors,
Mm-hmm.
um, like for example, when Edison was trying to invent the
Right.
light bulb,
Right.
it took him at least 10,000 tries to actually get to the light bulb as we know it
Right.
today.
Yes.
And even the light bulb has evolved right now.
Right.
But he didn't give up. He was like, okay, now I know
Yes.
9,999 ways to not create a light bulb.
Right. Right.
And so I'm not saying you should go into light bulb business, but I'm saying is you need to stick around long enough for the business to be successful because eventually
Yes.
it will. And some people experience accelerated growth in the very first 2 years, and
Yes.
others go at it for 10 years and then all of a sudden they seem successful overnight.
Yes. Yes.
But it's a seed that you plant and you need to feed it and you need to grow it. And it also depends on what market you're in, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, having a business is not about, oh, let me just pick something because I know that it
Right.
generates cash or that it's
Mm-hmm.
a thing that everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, everybody's in drop shipping now. Let me do that.
Yep.
Or everybody is running web shops, or
Yes.
everybody is doing this, or everybody's doing that. It's not about following what everybody is doing.
Right.
It's not a guarantee for success that it will work for you, your
Mm-hmm.
business,
Mm-hmm.
by doing what
Mm-hmm.
everybody else is doing.
Right.
So, and also, and I learned the hard way,
Yeah.
is that many gurus,
Yes.
especially online business gurus,
Mm-hmm.
tell you all kinds of strategies, but they leave out what is actually working for them.
Yes.
So, for example, when they say, okay, you need to do this and this marketing strategy, and then you'll get many clients, or this is how you should set up your ads because they work for us.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. They have another market than you do. They have a different service than you do.
Yes.
And so copy paste does not necessarily work.
Right. Or they have a big old team
So,
that's doing it for them,
or
and
they
you're
have a
you're
big
by
old
yourself.
team,
Yes.
or or they have partnerships that work really well for
Yes.
them.
Yes.
Like, I learned that when I started doing these online summits.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a course about online summits, and it was a really good course.
Mm-hmm.
But I was terrified because I had to get speakers.
Yes.
And I was like, how do I get speakers? And they had all these different examples on how you could do it. But I was terrified.
Yes.
And I even had my business coach say, it's really easy. You have all the names here. You have your contact details here. You start at the top and you go all the way through the list until you've
Yep.
either called or emailed all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the list just sat there for 6 weeks. I was
Yes.
absolutely terrified.
Yes.
And I couldn't do it. And I thought, okay, so no speakers, no summit. How am I going to do
Right.
this now?
Right. Right.
But how are the speakers going to respond? They don't know me. Who's this woman
Right.
from who has an American sounding name but
Yeah.
lives in the Netherlands, who's Dutch, and she wants something, and and it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so, and then I did what worked for me, which is the vision. So
Yeah.
what I did was create a little video
Mm-hmm.
in which I shared my vision.
Mm-hmm.
And it started grand because that's the kind of person I am. I do
Yes.
things. I go big or I go home.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so imagine this: the video starts with you're opening a video, and it starts with a person you don't know, and the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that comes out of their mouth is, "Let's look at the current status of leadership on this planet."
Yeah.
That was the first sentence. And so I shared my vision about that
Mm-hmm.
we no longer need ego based leadership. We don't need
Yes.
control based leadership. We need leadership that's much more inclusive and
Yeah.
holistic and more
Mm-hmm.
sustainable
Mm-hmm.
so that we are able to tackle all the complex problems that we're
Yes.
facing right now along those lines. And then I just invited them. I said, okay, I'm going to organize an event
Yeah.
where we're going to help people to shape leadership in a systemic way, in a different
Mm-hmm.
way. And I need you to pull it off. Well, along those lines, I used different
Yeah.
words, but that was the
Right.
bottom line.
Right.
And it still took me ages to make a very personalized email to tune into
Yes.
a person and send a link to this video. It
Mm-hmm.
was 3.5
Mm-hmm.
minute video.
Mm-hmm.
And to my surprise and shock, everybody said yes.
Yes.
And these are world speakers. I mean, Peter Senji,
Yeah.
Marshall Goldsmith. Those are
Mm-hmm.
Nora
Yes.
Bates and all these
Mm-hmm.
really big people who
Mm-hmm.
normally get humongous speaker fees
Right. Right.
came to my event and sat down with me and had an interview
Mm-hmm.
for free.
Yeah.
And this is how it hit off for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my lesson was a vision is bigger for me than me. A
Yeah.
vision is bigger for me than my fear. And I was extremely terrified
Yes.
to contact all these people. But I'm not saying that you should be doing online summits. I'm not
Right.
saying you should create a video. What I'm saying is when you start a business, do it with what's in alignment with you.
Mm-hmm.
Approach it in a way that is not just about making the money, but
Right.
something that you love doing, that you believe in, that you want to create something in the world, and that is going to fuel you
Mm-hmm.
in being in it for the long haul,
Right. I love
right?
that. I love that.
Yeah. So when you're working really hard and you're being um, a very harsh boss to yourself and working 80 hours a week to get your business off the ground,
Yeah.
then you should still feel the joy and the flow
Yeah.
because you're doing something that has meaning to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
funny thing is, potential clients will catch up on that and pay you big bucks for it. That's
Yes.
just how it
Yes.
works. That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
experience of how it works. And if you love
Yes.
teddy bears, love them to death and sell them.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I mean, I mean, it shouldn't. It's not necessarily that if it's not a big vision that it doesn't mean
Right.
anything. No,
Right.
but it's because you're feeling it. You're
Mm-hmm.
infusing it with it. You're the
Mm-hmm.
founder. You're the business owner, and
Right.
then your clients or customers are going to come to you. So,
Right. Well, and what you said is important too. And it's funny that you talk about video because
hmm,
I was doing a course as well and on this whole, and we talked earlier in the thing about sales versus service, because that the last
yeah,
frontier for me is sales, because that one, the whole introvert thing, but um just that whole sleazy, snake oily people in my LinkedIn DMs. Oh my gosh, your profile was so great. I just had to endorse you. How do you get your leads? Right. I'm like, really? Like, I don't recognize that as a sales technique. Come on. Right. But I know enough about me to realize that that technique, what I allowed that to do for me, how it manifested for me was in doing
hmm,
nothing. Doing nothing.
yeah,
Right. Like I'm so blessed. I have really great clients, But if I'm going to grow the business, I have to actually go get more, right? I have to
Yes.
go get more
Yes, you
clients.
do.
And so
Yes.
so what I found was that whole sales thing, it was just a really real block for me. But in
Yeah.
taking some of these courses, finding these people who are really building these really big businesses and being a learner, I love to learn. I love doing new things and learning from people
Mhm.
who really know what they're doing is yes, those techniques make sense because they work for these people.
Yes.
And we are all individuals. So it doesn't matter how much better the technique felt from whoever, right? That it didn't feel sleazy. It was
Mhm.
much more personal. It was much more about connection. There were
Yeah.
still things about the technique that didn't feel in integrity for me. But as you said,
Yeah.
right, you have to do the deep work. Is it that it didn't feel in integrity for me, or was that still butting up against fear, desire, whatever the thing is, right? And you got to be honest with yourself.
Mhm.
You can only do that deep
Yeah.
work. And I realized, you know what? It's still no, it really was out of integrity for me. But when turned the word sales into service, that worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every connection I make with someone, every person I meet, there's an opportunity to serve. Now,
Yes.
my service has a price,
Yes, it
right?
does.
But it's service. It's not sales because if there's no opportunity to serve, then we don't even talk about that, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting like you said, once you kind of made that flip, I actually had someone come to me and say, if you had an offer for me today, I'd write a check. I'm like, what? I mean, the same thing. Wasn't even thinking about it. Wasn't even talking about it. It just happened because it was so
Yeah.
in to no, here's what I believe about the impact that I am looking to make with people. Here are the things that we're talking about. Here are the things that we're doing. And this was another entrepreneur. So I'm thinking we're
Yeah.
just having a conversation about entrepreneurship and what our different businesses are doing. So when you're able to listen, right, and have that time to really think about what you're doing, it makes an impact. So how do you guide people? And maybe it's through Soulstar, right? How do you guide people in taking the time, because that sense of urgency will make us just do something, just start throwing
Mhm.
spaghetti against the wall.
Yeah.
How do you encourage and guide people to go slow, to go fast, right? Take the time to evaluate and learn and figure out what it is, whatever the thing is.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that that has to do with having an outlook on what you want in life. And
Mm,
without it becoming that big philosophical question, it's more about um I saw something not too long ago, and it's part of how I also work with clients now. Is that when you look at what do I want, or what does
mhm,
inspire me, or what is it
mhm,
that I truly want to do,
mhm,
then rather than trying to answer questions like what would make my business unique, or what are the unique selling points, or
mhm,
all of that stuff, look at you and look back on your life and think,
mhm.
oh, what is the core for me? Who have I
Right.
always been? What are things that
Yes.
I naturally do? And for most people, it elicits a smile on their face because they think
Right.
back of the things they loved when they were a child, and when
Yes.
success wasn't the big driver for
Right.
people just yet. So
Mhm.
when they were not part of the rat race yet, when they were not about, okay, I need to make money today thing, but when they were in their own natural flow,
Yes.
and and look
Yes.
there at what are the things that I naturally do that
Mhm.
could be of service to others, and
Yes.
then let yourself inform yourself on what you would then love to make a business out of.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so
I love that.
that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as you think about this shift, I was about to say this last shift, but I don't think this is by far going to be your last shift. Um, this most recent shift, right? Um,
Mhm.
how did you know, right? I mean, we talked about it a little
Mhm.
bit, but how did you know and then give yourself permission to really shift into this thing that it well, it's almost hard to explain because on the one hand, so many people are doing rest and mindset, and they're doing all the woo woo.
Yeah.
But that's not how you talk about it, Jennifer.
No, I'm not doing woo woo.
You're not doing woo woo. So
I'm not doing woo woo.
how did you when you think about, Soul Star and that whole
Hmm.
idea of having a business and a life
Yeah.
that brings you this joy and is aligned with who you are, right?
Yeah.
How did
Yeah.
you give yourself permission to move from something that was very in the beginning, you're talking change and systemic change, then you're doing,
Hmm.
masterminds and summits around, but it's still change, very corporate, into this thing
Yeah.
that is not corporate at all, but has little
Uh-huh.
c corporate because there's processes and there's,
Yeah.
there's things around it. How did you give yourself permission to be much more almost esoteric and just, no, this is how it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to feel and how it's supposed to
Yeah.
manifest for you, you know?
Yeah. Thank you for that question because I'm immediately like, how did I do that? And the funny thing is, Laurel, is that when it comes to personal development and the
Yes.
esoteric,
Yeah.
that is something that I have been doing since I was 14.
Mm.
And I've always been into personal development. And besides a very successful career and now
Yeah.
business, I
Yes.
have always done things that I love.
Yes.
And I've always found time to do them. And for me, that sometimes meant working 5 days a week. And then day six, I would devote to music
Mm.
the whole day. I would be in music school
Mhm.
on either Saturday or Sunday, depending on what
Mhm.
school I was in,
Right.
or doing music projects. Or so um, when I started earlier as a teenager, I I wasn't doing the typical things that many teenagers do. Part of it
Me
has to
neither.
do with my upbringing,
Y
which was very strict. But
Absolutely.
God bless my parents because
Right.
they did the best they could because they wanted me to have the
Yes.
best of the best.
Absolutely.
And reading books was allowed, so I read many of them, and I
Yes.
was all in the whole um, uh, new age scene also. So
Mhm.
I read books like Wayne
Yes.
Dyer and Louise Hay and
Mhm.
all these other Tony Robbins, all
Mhm.
these I read at a very early age.
Mhm.
And one of the intrinsic things in me was, how do I create a life that I love, where I do
Mm.
things that I love doing and accomplish goals in all kinds of different
Yeah.
areas of my life. And I did all kinds of experiments with it and try to accomplish something, use all kinds of techniques.
Mhm.
So I guess that what some people would call woo woo or more the
Mhm.
esoteric
Yeah.
had always been part of my life, but
Yeah.
never part of my profession or my business.
Ah.
So, even the systemic realm started
Mhm.
out early,
Mhm.
um, and it started in the personal sense to try
Mhm.
to understand my family system and
Mhm.
the complexity of my family system and um, the complexity of being black in a white
Mhm.
society and
Mhm.
and dealing with being marginalized and racism and all these different things. I
Yes.
encountered all of that when I was young, so I tried to fit in, but in many cases I did not.
Mhm.
Even though I wanted to belong or felt like I belong, or it was a normal thing to belong, I wasn't always included.
Right.
And so this sent me off into understanding, why am I not concluded? And is
Yeah.
something wrong with me? No, there's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
And the context is always stronger than the individual. So How do I
Yes.
deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
I think that many people who are listening and watching is, if you're in the corporate space, you may have experienced that you got kicked out all of a sudden. Oh, I'm at the top of my game. I'm doing the best thing. And then all of a sudden,
Yes.
I get kicked out of the organization. And this is a systemic dynamic that when you
Yes.
are making too much of a difference,
Mm-hmm.
which we usually think is a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
but when you make too much difference compared to everybody else, the system
Yes.
kicks you out.
Yes.
And I learned the hard way in all those different patterns. I learned the hard way, but it helped me in a personal and a professional sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the last few years, I'm noticing that all the experiences had, also the personal ones,
Mm-hmm.
have led me exactly to work with women in business,
Yes.
um, who have experienced what I have experienced,
Yes.
and it puts me in a place where I can serve them best because
Yes.
I understand. And
Yes.
so, and I think that that's how that went.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the esoteric. It started early. I was, in
Yes.
that sense, the odd one out. Um, I wasn't into boys. I was into books.
Yes.
And the
Same here.
shelves were
Yeah.
this small. There
Yeah.
were like 3 or 4 esoteric books in the whole
Yeah.
bookstore. And when I got an American boyfriend through, he was my pen pal, and then
Mm-hmm.
we started connecting on a deeper
Mm-hmm.
level when internet
Mm-hmm.
sort of emerged. And when I would visit him in the US, I couldn't wait to get to the Barnes and Noble
Right.
just to have a whole big bookshelf of esoteric books and self-help
That's
books and
awesome.
things to enhance your life, because
Yes.
and I still have all those books. I have so
Mm-hmm.
many books that I read, and I just what's it called? Devoured. I just
Yes. Yes.
I was so hungry for,
Mm-hmm.
uh, how do you create a happy life? How do you do that?
Yes.
Not that I was intrinsically unhappy, but
Right.
I just had a zest for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's how that all just came together with
Yeah.
the personal experiences and the professional experiences, and how that all comes
Yes.
together in Soulstar. And so I don't mind doing woo woo things.
Yeah.
I've been to a school where I learned about shamanism and all those
Yeah.
things.
Yes.
I never tell my clients, but shamanism and the systemic
Yeah.
sound of very different worlds, but they actually very similar. You just
Yes.
use different
Different words.
jargon, different
Yes.
words, different approaches, and the
Yeah.
systemic is very cerebral
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, very intellectual,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
shamanism is very energetic and
Right.
earthy and nature
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff, but also
Yes.
spiritual. So um but it's just, for me, it's just all one big blend.
Yeah.
And
I
depending
love
on the
it.
context I work in,
Yeah.
I just take that out of my backpack and just use
Yes.
it and apply it.
And I think
So
that's what that piece there, I don't want anyone who's listening or watching to gloss over, is that there there are so many tools in Jennifer's toolbox, and she has spent so much time really knowing who she is and truly being aligned. People laugh at me because my whole framework is alignment, vision, action. It's pretty easy, right? You have to be
yeah,
aligned first. There's a whole
yeah.
reason my logo is a tree, right? There's a whole story behind that. But it's alignment, and then you create the vision, and then you
Yes.
move into empowered action. It's pretty simple. Whether you're creating, a career or business, it's all the same thing, right? And and if you listen to Jennifer, everything she talks about, right, goes back to that. What is she trying to create, and how is she helping others create that? And by her being totally aligned with who she is able to pull what she needs from who she is to serve those people who are coming to her needing a solution, right, to either their vision or their pain or their curiosity, right? And so I think, Jennifer, what was so powerful, even the first time we had a conversation, at least to me, what was so powerful was
Mm-hmm.
there's I heard such clarity in what you were saying. So yes, earlier you told us about, yeah, Soul Star, I was just talking about it and then it just happened.
Yeah.
And that happens to me too, right? You're just talking about something. Other people are like, yeah, that's really good. And it's like, well, what did I say? Right? I don't remember what exactly I said. But
Did someone hit
such
record? Can
yes,
I
can you?
rewind? Because I don't know what I said.
Right? Can you repeat that for me? But I think there's
Yeah.
such clarity in it because it is so 100% aligned with
Yeah.
truly not only who you are, but what you believe is
Yeah.
necessary and the
Yeah.
impact that you want to make. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you talk to your clients and you're really encouraging them, right, to move into whatever it is they want, right? How as we kind of leave this deep dive piece,
Mm-hmm.
what is a word of encouragement that you would give someone who may be going down that rabbit hole of, well, the website and the lead magnet and the candle boxes and the got to have a label and a logo and but they said I have to do 42 posts a day. I mean, how do you help them go down the road of just stop? Stop.
Yeah.
What is it that you want to do? Right? How do
Yeah.
you kind of give them permission to just
Mm-hmm.
pause before they move?
Yeah. 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 And I love that. Thank you for that question. I love that. The Actually, it's about them giving themselves permission to pause.
I love that.
And giving yourself permission to pause starts with baby steps.
Mm,
And the baby step that I usually suggest for people is to take your phone, go to the timer app, set it for 3 or 5 minutes,
mhm.
put the phone down, and then sit.
Ooh, that's good.
Just sit. And many of us are will notice that there's a lot racing around in our heads.
Yes.
And so, Jennifer, I don't know how to meditate. That's what some people then say. And I said, I
Mhm.
didn't ask you to meditate.
Mm-mm.
Don't meditate because you can't stop your thoughts. And for some people, it's more of a race course than anything else.
Right?
So I'm not going to ask you to stop that. But you just get into the practice of sitting for 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you're too much distracted by all the thoughts in your head, try to observe what's going on in your body.
Mm,
So when
yeah.
you're sitting, oh, is my foot painful? Oh, there's a little tingle here.
Mhm.
Oh, I feel pressure in my head. Just notice what's going on in your body.
Mhm.
And when you grow a habit of sitting with yourself, where everybody has 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, you can't tell me that you don't,
Right.
unless you're running a summit on your own.
Right. Right.
Then you need your mom there to
Right.
put you back. But okay. Uh, yeah, but I've got kids. When the kids are to bed, or when they're not up yet in the morning,
Yes.
so then you'll have to get up really early. You know
Right.
that because kids are early birds. But
Yes.
or even at work,
Yeah.
go find an empty office, or
Mhm.
but sit for just a
Yes.
couple of minutes and
Mhm.
tune in every day. And I'm not going to put restrictions on it, like do it at the
Right.
same time every day and all that
Right.
stuff. But although that does help, but
Mhm.
if you're starting out, do that.
Mhm.
And at some point, the chatter and all the thoughts in your mind will quieten, and
Mhm.
then um, you'll be able to tap into the deeper layers of you,
Yeah.
and you'll start hearing,
Yes.
you'll start feeling. The thoughts that pop up will be different. And then all of a
Yes.
sudden, you will get to the things that are more in alignment with you. And things will bubble up like, oh, I actually need this. Or, oh, I actually love this.
Mm-hmm.
And all the
Yes.
outer wanting in terms of shiny object syndrome and wanting to do all the flashy marketing things
Mm-hmm.
will be gone for those minutes that you sit with yourself.
Yes. I love that.
And that's all.
I
And
love
then
that.
all of a sudden, you'll have more space to focus on what's in alignment. And then also differentiate. Another thing that's very important is differentiate between you and your business.
Mm. Mm.
This was a big one for me. I found that very difficult because I
Yes.
called my business Jennifer Campbell.
Yeah.
My first business, my change
Yes.
business.
Mm-hmm.
And because now I have Soulstar, I have two businesses now. And with
Mm-hmm.
Soulstar, I'm noticing, and I have been from the get-go, this is not a one-woman show, this company.
Yes.
I'm going to be having a team. I'm going to have stellar coaches and mentors to work in Soulstar. Once it's big enough to cater for and when we have more clients.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, it's me. I'm its mama.
Yeah.
I founded
Yes.
it, but I need to give this business what it needs to grow.
Yes.
And so those two things, to sit with yourself and to calibrate with yourself, align with yourself, and feel what is my vision, what is my in alignment with me,
Right.
what is my curiosity, what is the main focus for this business.
Yes.
Then you'll find it. And not by wanting to force yourself through all kinds of methods, but to sit, to quiet down, and let it come to you. And the other thing is, there's a difference between you and your business. It's not the same. Business is an entity, and you are a person, and that's not the same.
That's so good. That's so good, especially for those of us, because I'm the same way. My business is my name, right? I am the brand, and it is difficult to separate yourself when that's the case, right? That's so good. That is so good. Oh,
Yeah.
See, I knew this
Oh,
was
I
going to be
have
such a
one
great
more
conversation.
suggestion.
Oh, yes,
Would you
yes,
like one more?
absolutely.
One more is, and this I learned this from a friend with whom I did a strategy day for Soulstar. And we sat down, and then she said, oh, I have the other day I saw something so profound. Let's do that also with Soulstar. And I said, well, what is it? And she said, I met a company that created its own 100-year vision. I said,
Wow.
100-year vision.
Interesting.
And that's what I said. Oh, that's interesting. And I was so curious. So I said, well, yeah, let's do this. And because normally we look at 1 year or 5 year and many people struggle with 3 or 5 years.
Yes.
Going, well, I want to know what I'm going to make in a couple of months.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But let me just tell you what this did for me. I did the 100-year vision for Soulstar, which means this company is going to be alive and well when I'm gone.
When you're gone.
Because the likelihood of me living another 100 years is teeny, tiny little, very small.
Right.
So, but all of a sudden, I was like, okay, if Soulstar lives at least another 100 years, then what is it actually contributing to? What is its purpose then, really? And you get to very big things when a company lives that long. I mean, I don't know if
Yes.
Steve Jobs did this, but I do know that part of their vision or their why
Mhm.
is to put a zing in the universe.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Steve Jobs is gone, but
Yes.
the Apple didn't get that big just for nothing. So many
No.
people believe in the big vision,
Yes.
and it carries on beyond the founder's life,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So, and this is what I want for Soulstar.
Yes. Yes.
I want to contribute to uh, humanity through
Yeah.
Soulstar, so
Yes.
that we have generations of people, specifically women, specifically
Yes.
uh, Black women, women of
Yeah.
color, who have a business to really take good care of themselves,
Yes.
so that their businesses and their visions can thrive
Yes.
and do not perish because they lost their hum and they stop their business because
Yeah.
they're burned out and they're not fulfilled in their lives, right?
Mhm. Oh,
So, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, wow, that's all Soulstar is going to do.
yeah.
And you know what that did for me? I thought, this means that I got to be a really great CEO for Soulstar,
Yes. Yes.
because it's bigger than me. It's not just about
Yes.
me and about how much revenue I want to make.
Mhm.
And it's a legitimate thing that I want to do.
Yes.
But
Yes.
Soulstar is more about that. I need to make
Absolutely.
revenue in order for Soulstar to live up to its purpose, and
Yes.
that it can continue to serve all these clients,
Mm.
all these women with their businesses, women entrepreneurs, when I am long gone,
Wow.
right?
Yes. That's
And
great.
it's such all of a sudden I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I get to be
Yeah.
at the beginning, at the baby time of Soulstar,
Yes.
that all of a
That's
sudden
deep.
it's going to be a grown business, and it's going to
Yes.
do its own thing, and other people are going to take it further,
Yes.
and and
Yes.
that is such an amazing thing, such an
Yes.
amazing thing. And I think that this is not all moms, but I think that many moms feel this also. Oh, I have this
Mhm.
baby now,
Right?
and I'm growing it to be, oh, wait a minute, they're
Right?
18. Oh,
Yes.
wait a minute. Look what
Yes.
they're doing in the world.
Yes.
And for businesses, being not just a founder but also a CEO,
Mhm.
that's what that means.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yes.
amazing?
That's amazing. I I'm, like, blown away, honestly, because that is such a different, not only is it a different mindset, right? But there's freedom in that mindset.
Yeah,
There's so much freedom in
there
that
is.
mindset to, it's almost like that, what you think would make it harder. Think about a
Mhm.
100-year plan, because you're right, people get all jacked up about 3 years, 5 years, what? Right? If you think about 100 years, it's like, no, I yes, I need to pay attention for 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, because it's gotta be a going concern. But if I'm
Yeah,
thinking 100 years, what I'm thinking about is foundation. I'm thinking preparation. I'm
yeah,
thinking about making something so solid
yeah,
that someone can take it to the next level. That's a whole different level of freedom than,
yeah, yeah,
I've got to build this thing just for me right now.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
different. So instead of your
Yeah.
business just being a vehicle about making money,
Yeah.
it's also a vehicle to serve a purpose.
Yes.
And it can be as philosophical or as blunt as whatever, but that is what you envision for it.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's why some entrepreneurs are so inspiring. Some entrepreneurs
Yeah.
have hundreds of businesses.
Right.
Um and they all fall under usually under
Mhm.
one big umbrella.
Right, right.
Um, but there's all these different
Mhm.
businesses that serve a part of that
Mhm.
big umbrella.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I love how you just said that it gives freedom. It does,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the the role of the CEO at some point need not be me.
Right.
It can be me, but um, I may decide at some point that someone else is going to be a better CEO than me for
Yes.
Soulstar,
Right.
right? And that's where the whole purpose of Soulstar, when it comes to
Yes.
creating a fulfilling life,
Mhm.
it also creates fulfillment for me. If I
Yes.
feel, okay, I've given it my all,
Mhm.
now it's for someone else to be its CEO. I'll always be the
Yes.
founder. But
Absolutely.
it's
Yes.
better for Soulstar to have a different CEO,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be in this part of the company now,
Right.
or I'm going to make sure that there's a very good team and then step
Mhm.
back.
Yes. Yes.
That is
Become
also an option,
yes. Yes.
right?
Become the chairman of the
So,
board, chairman emeritus or
yeah,
something.
yes.
Yes. Mhm.
And then
Yes.
it's just creates an entire different perspective,
Yes.
both for the business and for me, as to
Yes.
what roles do I fulfill. Because
Yeah.
many of us are not good at all the roles that your business
Oh
actually
no.
needs.
Right.
And it may also apply to the CEO role.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Ah,
so yeah.
that was man, that was so good. Those three, that's so good. So good. Just that was a PhD in entrepreneurship right there. Right there. Right there. Jennifer, thank you. Thank you for this deep dive. That's why I wanted to do this in these segments, is to really
Mm,
have that deeper conversation about this journey
yeah,
and those
yeah,
things that in a safe space where we could consider some of the deeper questions, right? And really have some deeper answer to those. So thank you for allowing me to ask those deeper questions and for being so open and honest with those and giving us such great insight. I so appreciate it.
yeah. And thank you for this conversation. I also
Yes.
truly enjoyed it. And thank you for your
Yes.
questions,
Yes.
because I find myself articulating things I haven't
Yep.
articulated before like this. So thank
Yes.
you so much for the
You're welcome.
opportunity
Absolutely.
to exchange ideas.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
thank
This
you
was
so much.
wonderful. This was wonderful. And so, for those of you who are catching this deep dive, we are going to continue to have these segments going forward, and stay tuned and pay attention to all of the socials and laurelrutledge.com and all of the things. And you will see our next announcement for the next deep dive with an entrepreneur on the Rutledge Perspective podcast. Take care, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching this video. If it said something to you, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And you can find more of my video content here. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.